This is the Well Brewed podcast, where we share our 40 plus years of commercial brewing experience to help fellow beer lovers on their journey of building a brewery. Full disclosure, we own a brewery equipment business, but we aren't here to sell you anything. This is truly about helping the industry we love. So g'day, and welcome to the Well Brewed podcast. My name's Lachy, and I'm normally here with my mates Clemmy and Jake, drinking fresh local beer and chatting about building breweries. But today, we have something a little bit different for you. I'm here chatting with one of the owners and head brewer from one of Australia's best up-and-coming breweries, talking about their respective journeys and offering a different perspective about starting and operating a brew pub. So welcome to the potty, Sarah and Charlie from Woolgoolga Brewing. Hi, guys.
Hey, mate. Cheers. Thanks for having us.
No worries. Thanks for taking the time to join. Now, I actually made the trek down to Whoopee to brew a beer with Charlie and thought we'd use this opportunity to get together and put something different together for the podcast. But you might notice I'm not actually in Whoop. It's because Charlie and I spent most of the time shooting the shit and drinking beer, and we ran out of time to get anything together. So this is maybe 7 days later than when we actually brewed. Beer's probably bubbling away behind you.
Yeah, it's ticking along all right, mate. Yeah, going well.
Beautiful. I'll get a gravity update from you shortly. But I guess on more pressing matters, what are you guys drinking? You having a beer or?
Yes, we are.
One of Charlie's finest.
Beautiful. What do you got?
The Altered State Wedding Bells, so that's Mosaic Simcoe Citra pale that I gave you when you're down here.
Beautiful. Yeah, what a cracker.
Drinking sparingly.
I didn't actually take any beer away, so I managed to get some Gallows Trapdoors West Coast, so it's probably as close to local beer to what you guys are doing. They're friends of the brewery, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Those guys make a great beer. We've got their sour on tap at the moment. It's delicious.
There you go. Very good. So, I've been sipping on that while I've been tapping away, writing some stuff for this. So, but I think, so Chazza, we actually go back a fair way. More than a decade. Like, why don't we kick things off? You can share a bit about your journey getting into brewing and maybe a bit about our history, and I might just butt in and if you get anything wrong or make me out to be the bad guy at any stage. So.
Butt out, mate. Let me go. So we go back a long way. It's we obviously had a bit of a laugh and a joke about it when you hear that you're one of only 2 or 3 people that actually call me Chazza anywhere. So,
did I just call you Chazza then?
Yeah, so it always gives me a chuckle. Jake, obviously, and Muhunden, another ex-Gage guy. So
yes.
Big love to Muhu if he's listening, which he better be.
He better be, mate.
We go back. I guess our history to start with goes back to, I started the Gage in 06. So still a very small family-orientated business then with, Big Billy and John Hodemaker and Peter Nolan, Aaron Heary when he was still a young, fresh-faced young man, Josh Blythe, who you've worked with as well. So, we were still only a small operation then. Obviously things have grown. We were probably peaking when you got on board, just in time to beat you with the big stick.
Yes,
welcome
indeed.
to professional brewing, young man.
Yeah, that's it. I think I rolled through like early 2010, I think, and had come from retail liquor and had just stood behind a counter all day and thought the idea of making beer was cool for whatever reason that was. And a bit of a rude shock coming into a harsh production environment, working with yourself, cracking the whip.
Yeah, there's plenty of that.
Yes.
And you responded well, which anyone that knows you probably know you don't mind the odds cracking of the whip. So either at
from
work,
either end.
I guess going back before then, something we've touched on off camera as well. I started home brewing in the late 90s when I was still working up in the Midwest. Mining, had some interesting experiences with that.
What was your homebrew kit like in the late 90s? What were you doing for fermentation control, etc.?
A spare room.
Right, very nice.
And it was a funded facility just in case anything went bad. But I ended up moving up to the thermostat controlled fridge. It was reasonably highbrow for a little while there, but but yeah, and then I guess we won't go into the hows and whys of it all, but we was certainly looking at starting a family around the sort of late 90s, and a job popped up as a cellar hand, or for a cellar hand at Horton Wines, which is, I don't really know how they're going these days, but Western Australia's oldest and largest winery of the time. So yeah, actually spent a fair bit of time working in the cellars, or what we refer to as the dungeons. Underneath a very, very old building where Moondine Joe, one of WA's most famous bushrangers, was actually caught. Right. Quite well inebriated. I think he broke in, got hammered, and got busted. So I don't know
not so smart.
No, I don't know. How much truth is in that story, but yeah. And I guess I learnt my cellar trade at Hortons as well. You know, when you're in a big operation like that, when you've got banks of 100,000 litre tanks or whatever that is in hectolitres, I don't even know what that is. What's 100,000 litres in?
1,000 heckie.
Yeah. Yep. So we had some big tanks there. You know, we had earth filters that would run at 45,000 litres an hour. A fuge. A fuge that was as big as we had a massive fuge. That would filter 10 or 15 kl an hour as well. So, it taught me a lot. So I was pretty well versed. And when I applied for the gig at Gage, I think I've probably told you off camera as well. That was down to me and another who's now a bit of a WA icon to who got that gig. And
yes, can you share that name, or you don't want to be public?
Know if it's true or not, but putting two and two together, I believe it was old mate Mouse Corrible.
That's right.
But Matzo's in Broome, and obviously has spent time at Colonial, Indian Ocean, and the Monk. I think he was at the Monk Brewing for a little while as well.
Yes, you pipped him at the post, eh? On that,
I believe so.
We can fact check that. Actually,
yeah.
I'll call Mal afterwards and check his side of the story.
But it might not be true at all. But given the information I had, that's who it might be a little bit me bigging myself up too, maybe.
Yeah, sure. I'm fine with that, man. I think we actually have another connection through Hortons, because they built their large production facility in Nannup, actually on a block that they bought off my family farm. So we're a little bit more entwined than maybe we first thought. But
wow, I didn't actually know that. Obviously, I knew we moved down to Nannup with had some boozy cricket trips down to Nannup, some interwinery cricket trips on the Nannup Oval.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's where I played all my school sports. But I think just a story popped to mind while you were talking. There was a story that Josh Blythe used to tell about you showing up to your interview with some homebrew in clear glass Carlton Cold bottles. I don't know how true that is, but it's definitely a story I've heard bandied around from time to time.
You probably know JB well enough not to believe too much of what that man says. But it was true. And Aaron Heary often says it was one of the reasons why, or part of the reasons why he gave me the gig, because I had enough kahunas, I guess. You've warned us about swearing on the podcast, but to bring along some of my own beer, and and obviously with my background, I've done my GCBP with the IBD while I was still at the winery as well, so had a pretty solid production background. But bringing an average Metzen or some sort of fest beer in clear glass to an interview obviously seemed to have augured well for me.
Well, definitely got nuts to do that, mate. So, no, well done. I actually, I did give someone else, when I was at Ballistic, a job for their homebrew they brought in. That was Sean Astle, who now owns Future Magic, brought in a West Coast IPA that was an absolute stonker.
Oh, wow.
And so he got a job through that. So well done, Sean.
Yeah,
if you're listening, mate. So Sarah, do you want to maybe just give us a bit of rundown? I don't know you as well as I know Charlie, but about yourself, your life before, being a brewery owner, and how it led up to you, starting this journey and opening Whoopie Brewing?
Yeah, no worries. Well, we kind of started our brewery journey here in Whoopie about 2 years ago, or a little over. Coming from the Mornington Peninsula, had run businesses before, but really loved the craft beer industry and the way that businesses work together, and it always felt like such a inclusive, fun kind of place to be working, and the way breweries work together. So we quite a few brewery owners down on the peninsula, and they were always talking about how they were working together and coming up with new things. It was very creative. Always lots going on. I think the industry's really, continued to move and change and new things happen. So really was quite interesting to us. So yeah, I was working with Matt Beebe down at Mornington Peninsula Brewery for a little bit, now Tar Barrel, and he's a fantastic supporter of people coming into the industry, sharing his knowledge, sharing his passion, and I think that really kicked us along to think that we could kind of come up this way and run something ourselves. So that's kind of how it all started, and we landed in Whoopi about 4 years ago and started the process of trying to find a site and figure out how we could make this great craft brewery dream of ours become a bit of a reality.
Right. So you actually moved up to Whoopi with the intention of building the brewery?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we'd started to build out a plan when we were down working with Matt, kind of just figuring out how all the cogs fit together and what the pieces of the puzzle look like. There's far more than I realised. Shit. But working with him and really being able to quiz him and ask him any question and kind of get involved in operations down there when they had their really big site once Tribe had bought them was really interesting, and learned a heap doing that, which really gave us the confidence that him being involved, which he is involved in this business here, would provide us with a really good foundation and a good set of knowledge and wisdom to bounce things off and figure out what to do when shit goes wrong.
Yeah. No, that's great. And so timeline wise, from inception of idea until actually opening doors, do you have an estimate of how long you think that would have been?
Yeah, look, from when we landed, the biggest thing for us was finding the right site. I think that our idea of the ideal regional craft brewery was something that had space. We knew we probably needed to be in an industrial estate. So trying to find the right location that we could pull off and give people the experience that we wanted to give them was really the big thing. And then obviously we ripped the guts out of this big old shed that we're in, tried to make it funky, had to put a load of concrete in,
Had to bring me in to pull that off, the funky look.
Just achieved.
Yeah.
So probably that was a good, I would say, 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah, right.
From today. So it definitely took us quite a while to kind of get everything organised and sorted. The council up here hadn't really dealt with craft breweries before, so kind of trying to navigate DAs and liquor licensing and, all those things that you probably don't realise when you're starting to plan the actual functional brewery. Took some time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, great. And the DA process, was that, I've heard people being over 12 months on that with different councils. Obviously, it's different for you guys, but, how long do you have an estimate on what, from when you put your initial application in until approval?
Yeah, look, for us, it definitely was probably about 12 months, I think, from when we started. Yeah. There's a lot of groundwork to do to pull together all the information to get a DA in. We've got a reasonable sized site here, so... and as I mentioned, they hadn't really had an experience. They didn't really know what we were trying to achieve. So we did have to do a fair bit of groundwork to kind of really get them to understand what the operation, what the business was going to be like, how much we'd be manufacturing, all those sorts of things. So, but we had a great contact in our local council who was managing our DA, so he certainly helped. But yeah, it was a process.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's great. And so the brewery now, so that now you guys are open, you predominantly a brew pub style. Do you want to just give us a little rundown of a high level business model and, why you chose the size equipment you do and the function of that?
Yeah, sure. We're a brew pub first and foremost, and I guess that was always our vision, was to create a kind of a community space. We're regional North Coast New South Wales, so a place where people of all ages, families, we have first birthdays and we have 80th birthdays here, and then we have everything in between, and that's certainly the vibe that we want. We have lots of live music, we bring in lots of different types of things. We have
markets, and I think that's really been the thing that we found people have connected to.
creating lots of different reasons for people to drop in and say hi and check it out.
Drag.
Yeah.
Drag. We had drag trivia.
Yeah.
You've actually had a first birthday there?
We did have a very big
Fantastic.
first birthday. It lasted about a week. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
So, yeah, we.
Oh, no. I was talking about first birthday of actually like
first
1-year-olds.
birthdays.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's the best place for a first birthday.
I know.
We're
Maybe
so happy.
you can have a chat to my wife. We've got a first birthday coming up in July, so
Come on down, Lachy.
at a brewery, yeah, let's do it. And
Go down the hill and leave them to it.
yes, that's it. Just roll them down and yeah, off we go. And like patronage, like locals v tourists. Do you think it's like leans one way or the other?
I think, look, certainly we have a fair bit of seasonality being where we are. So holidays, we are jam-packed full of tourists
Yes,
and
yeah.
locals. And then, in our quieter times, it's definitely the locals that keep coming back in and keep coming to try new beers and come to different events and, yeah, keep things ticking.
So, Chaz, like we brewed a beer last week. It would have been nearly a week ago today, actually, was it? It was.
Yeah, it was Thursday, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it must be ticking along. Do you want to talk a little bit about the beer that we brewed and where it's at now and how it's looking?
Yeah, so it's ticking along all right. It's moved into the sort of low mid 7% mark. It's you're a degrees P man, so I think it's sitting at around sort of 5-6 degrees P this morning off the top of my head. So it's starting to move along quite nicely. It's something, as I do, I generally tend to bag anything new in the industry out relentlessly for a while until I'm not scared of it anymore.
You're showing your age, mate.
Yeah, I am. And black IPAs, I've obviously made a couple of good ones at MASH and had a good one at Helios as well. So, and a black double has been one I've been wanting to do for a while. I had to arm wrestle these guys a little bit to let me get one across the line, but again, our patronage is so open, and everything we're putting on that's new that might be out of comfort zone of what we generally call a craft green zone or patron. They're ripping into. So, black double IPA, we're sort of looking at that 8.5%. 70 BUs, which was something you were keen to build and obviously to chat about it. BUs. And I've ebbed and flowed with putting dark malts on top of the sparge. We did it a bit at MASH because it was easy. We didn't really do it so much at Helios because it wasn't so easy. And it's something that you mentioned that you hadn't done a lot of. So, we went down that path, which is looking pretty good. It's not overly roast dark malt forward. I'm sure we'll drag some of those darker characters through, but hopefully they'll be a little bit more subtle and be like a bit more of those OG black IPAs as we were talking about, and being presenting dark to the eye but not necessarily so to the nose and palate. Because
I guess we the intention was to actually chuck in all the dark malts during transfer to Lauderton, and we were caught up shooting the shit and got distracted and ended up having
just
had to pour it in on top and mix it in with the mash paddle. But yeah, it was good. I was actually quite impressed with the colour. The wort was quite dark going into tank, so it seemed to extract enough colour.
Yeah, and even though we were saying, first runnings were a little bit perhaps lighter, burnt red, burgundy, rather than, in the final runnings, I think we're actually quite a bit darker. So it's obviously picked up a bit through that sparge, which was cool to watch. Yeah,
no, it's great. Just on your comment before about, your patronage and, being green beer drinkers. I can't remember the exact terminology you used, but craft green.
Yeah.
Is that what the shade of the grass you have out on the lawn?
Pretty green here. You've seen it, mate.
Yes. But I think, my experience that people are keen to try more stuff than you think. I find that, I don't know, I've been caught in the trap before. You pigeonhole, people into pale ales and lagers, and they're obviously your biggest moving beers. But I was always of the opinion when we started Ballistic, I couldn't sell a sour beer in Salisbury. And, the second birthday or first birthday, whenever we launched one, it was our highest selling beer. And people, quite interested in trying newer stuff than we often give them credit for. So I think you might be pleasantly surprised with how this beer goes. Or maybe I'm just saying that to big it up. Who knows?
No, you're right. And Sarah will know that, as well as anyone, having seen it firsthand. But, we're starting to play in those softer bittered pales, the East Coast, New England styles. And they're quickly, again, moving to the top of the pops in our weekly sales figures. And, I've got a stout, an overtly sweet stout on that I meant to get you to have a look at last week while you're here.
I forgot.
That's got some excitement behind it already. And again, as we spoke about, I've probably been a bit stale in my thought process and approach to how I go about my work. And but so we'll definitely be trying some stuff that are not normally in my wheelhouse, and that stout's probably the first look at where I'm headed.
So the sweetish stout is more like a pastry style dessert stout base that you're working with. Is that?
Yeah. No, there's no ish after the sweet. It's sweet. But yeah, very, very high terminal gravity. But certainly that. And we're going to use it as base beer. I've got to get this brink up and running, and I'll use the brink. I'm not a big yeast harvesting propagation man, but I'll be using the brink to run off small parcels. I've got some purees coming up. We've got some coconut. We've got a very high-end pastry chef here that's running the venue, so Jamie's going to work with me, and we'll probably put an affogato spin on it maybe tomorrow or next week. So, we're going to use that as a base and, back us some of these beers.
Yes. Hi, Ross. Shout out to Ross. So what's your perspective, guys, like on the industry? I know, Charlie, you've been through a few waves of, market trends, but, it seems to me that things are moving away from bitter beers. Is that your perspective too?
Well, from our perspective, the sales definitely do the talking. We can see that when we do produce, or Charlie produces something that's a lower bitterness, that's just got a more gentle mouthfeel, and it's, people just flock to it a little bit more than perhaps your typical bigger bitterness beers. There's still a place for it, I'm sure, There's a lot of people who love that, but I think when we're talking about lots of people coming in to craft breweries like ours and trying different things, they're probably not the beers that they're steering towards.
Yeah, sure. And do you think that's generational, where palates are changing, or do you think it's skill of brewers because there's a massive pool of breweries now? Maybe they're just not as balanced as once used to be, or a combination. Is there any insight there, or am I just barking?
No, not at all. I think it's certainly there's certainly a skill in it. There's enough good guys around now that, and there has been for years now, that of bringing these trends. You've probably been to the US, spent your fair share of time over there, I guess, but it's a trend that's been brought back here, like the bitter beers. But I think these guys, and it's no secret that Joe Public loves anything sweet. There's a big sugar addiction out in the public, in food. So it's no surprise that we're finding these beers that are only just holding a modicum of balance, if even at all. But it's no wonder they're kicking off. I think there's a very big, and I don't mean to offend too many craft beer drinkers here, but there's a massive sheep mentality. It's monkey see, monkey do. So I better, Yep, so there.
Yeah.
But definitely there's definitely an art to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, and from my perspective, I've been known to shoot my mouth off saying that beer's for drinking. It sounds like such a silly, obvious comment to make, but I think it often gets missed at times that, beer's actually meant to be drunk. It's not, for show or gimmicky necessarily, and I think that there is an opportunity where you can make the lower BU IPAs, hazy IPAs that are balanced and drinkable, but it's a skill, as in making any beer that's balanced and drinkable, the same as a Pilsner or a Stout, etc. And I think that's maybe where sometimes gets let down.
Yeah, definitely. I guess it's like with anything, when we're going through the bitter roll, 7, 8, 9 years ago, and there was some some offensively bitter IPAs coming out into the market. It's like, oh, well done, that's great. See what you've done there, but I'm done.
Yes.
A third of the way through my schooner.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think it's on trend. Hopefully, I think some of it will stay around. It's. Yeah, I don't like it. I've been openly on record for a long time. I don't like it at all.
It's not your jam. What, like hazy beers, hazy pales, hazy IPAs?
Was that a pun there with the jam that you just slipped in?
No, it wasn't. But take it how you will.
No, it's not. Yeah, no, it's not. I'm a traditionalist. I like beer history. I like the fact that we've got hundreds of years behind us. Yeah, and I think it's disappointing that a lot of that is getting lost. I think we spoke to you years ago. It's when you're at Ballistic, and I can't remember, was it Vienna that you might have made, or some sort of Munich lager that you reckon? Well,
yeah, it was like a fest beer, Munich lager. Yeah,
and you couldn't move it. Nobody would touch it.
Yes.
So
I think it was probably one of the best beers I'd made in my career. Amazing, like malty, 6% fest beer for Oktoberfest, and we couldn't sell it to save our lives.
Yeah, that's unfortunately where we're at. But sometimes you've got to jump on the bandwagon. I've been very reluctant, probably to the detriment of the last two breweries I've worked for. But yeah, here's a new opportunity. It's especially being regional. We do know that we get a big tourism market from Melbourne and Sydney. That will bring craft palates up here. So, and those that are not here, it's a good opportunity for us to bring metro flavour profiles country.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great. I think, Sarah, I remember it would have been last Wednesday night, we were having dinner and we were talking about what things make a brewery successful and how it's not necessarily just beer. I mean, beer's important. But there was something you said around, like, planning your business around your customers and what they want. Like, do you want to talk a little bit about that and the approach you've taken and why that's allowed you guys to be successful, and not specifically that, but anything else you think that is a good takeaway? Because I think it's really interesting and often gets missed. There's a lot of brewery owners that do things for themselves when I think you kind of miss the point. So, what's your take on that and how you've applied it?
Yeah, look, we knew that we were coming to a place that this sort of environment was pretty new. There wasn't a brewery, and there still isn't one quite like this on the Coffs Coast. There's a brew pub, but our environment's quite different. So we knew that we really wanted, families, kids, women, groups, all these people to come into this space and really enjoy it, and to be bringing people together who might not have normally come to a brewery before. It might be the first time that they've come. So there's an element that it has to be something a bit wow. You have to, we're in an industrial estate in a big shed, and also just making sure that we have a range of offerings that suit not only the craft beer drinkers or the guys coming in together, but that there's options and there's sweet things and there's sour things. We do have, a small amount of craft distillery that are local to us. So we've got some of their offerings here. So I think it's just being aware that we kind of want to have a little bit of something for everyone. So no matter who you are, you can come into this space and find something to enjoy to drink, enjoy being in the environment, and hopefully try something new that you haven't tried before.
Yeah, great. And look, and just to that point, I was really impressed with the venue when I came in on Thursday for Brew Day. I've been doing this a while, and, we were talking over dinner about how, it's just not enough to have a brewery in a shed anymore. Like, there's so much more that needs to be, and you need to have a reason, you need to be compelling, you need to be differentiated. And I think having seen what you guys have done with the fit out and creating a space that feels welcoming and family orientated, but also the branding, and it's easy to understand and it fits together, and it suits your site and your beers, and it's just like a really neat package. So really impressive what you guys have done, and I think head and shoulders above a lot. It's really, really cool. So well done.
Thank you. We've worked very hard at it. So thanks so much.
Yeah. No drama.
That's how we dragged Charlie down from Brisbane. He came and he was just like, "Oh wow, this place is cool. I want to work."
Yeah. Oh, it is great. And, the brew deck overlooking the tables, and it's really cool. And I don't know. I don't want to harp on about it, but marketing, and we did another podcast about is good beer enough, and I had a rant about marketing and branding and why it's so important, and it's something you guys have nailed. So no, really, really good job. Chazza, like in my when I was an early young pup assistant brewer back in the day, and I actually never homebrewed until I was a commercial brewer properly, which is kind of the wrong way, well, the backwards way to do it. Maybe not the wrong way. It's worked out okay for me, but never got, we were working in a big productions facility, and wasn't a lot of creative license that we had as brewers, but starting to homebrew allowed me to sort of, spread my wings a bit in that space. But there was a lot that you taught me in those early days about recipe design and philosophy about building recipes that I've carried on through my career, and even, nearly 15 years later, still use some of that stuff. Like, could you just might be just putting you on the spot, but give us a bit of a rundown of your philosophy about building recipes and layering flavors and how you put things together, particularly for a commercial brew? Like, it is quite different from a homebrew setting to getting, recipes ready for commercial. Like, do you want to just a bit of spin on that?
No.
Cool. Very good. Okay. And moving on.
No. It's one of the, I guess it's my strength. It's what I bring. I'm not too sure where it comes from. You probably know enough about my diet to question.
I had a good story about that, actually, if I can butt in. When you first moved to Brizzy, I invited you around for Christmas that year because you just landed, and my old man was over, and I said, "Oh, Charlie, what sort of food do you eat? I'm preparing lunch for Chrissy," and you said sausage rolls.
Yeah.
was your single response to what I eat. So I don't think I made sausage rolls, but no, that's...
Sausage rolls
anyway.
Are a fine product, and I'm also causing the chefs here much amusement. They're like, hang on a minute, man, you come out here, you're showing us beers, you're ripping out all these descriptors, how things start, how things finish, and you come and order a pizza. I literally had one for lunch today, and I said to Jamie, you just whacked that one through the till, and he said, what'd you have? And I said, ham and cheese, and he just laughed, shook his head and walked away. So yeah, my food palate is very entry level, but I'm getting better. I'm still, I could go on about that for a little while, but I won't take up your podcast with my likes and dislikes and how I need to feed myself.
Yes, sure, but that can be ep 2, but anyway.
If there's enough questions and interest, then we're happy to revisit. But yeah, it's all about, again, I don't know where it really came from, but I guess I read a few Bibles back in the day, Designing Great Beers by old mate Ray Daniels. That's done the rounds. It's, I think I've got it back from Jackson when I was over at Pirate Life in, last year. It's got pages together. I learnt a lot out of that book. Certainly been in lots of different hands. Yeah, I guess structure and building things in, I think it's, especially as a home brewer, it's really easy they're not hard to pick home brewers' recipes when you go in and see that they're running 7 to 10 malts and the hops from, the whole Pacific Northwest in just hot side, let alone what goes into dry. So, I think it's really easy to overdo things. And one of the things I picked up from that book was to, and it probably works in life as well, work out what you need, what you're going to put in there, what's it going to bring. And if you can't find a home for it or a good reason for it, get it out. We know, again, we all probably brew the same way. We all, especially a lot of the old Gauge crew, we all design our beers around full bags, half bags.
Yes.
You won't see too many of us using 3 or 5 or 6 or 7 kilos. It'll be full bags, half bags. Apart from real dark malts. So, but yeah, it's all about structure, palate weight, depth of palate. Again, it's no good having, spending all your budget on, $55 a kilo high-end US hops that are hard to source when you're when you've got an unbalanced base beer. That's might start empty, finish aggressive and bitter. It might start full and sweet, but might tail off and have nothing out the back, or it could have nothing through the middle. So. Structuring raw material is again something that just seems to come to me. And it's definitely my strength. I'm not a technical brewer, but designing beers and knowing how to, I can certainly hear hear audibles. I can read, this is how I go straight to something new. I'll read about it and go, okay, cool. And then I can quickly transfer it into a recipe. It doesn't take me long. Generally, I don't faff about. I generally don't revisit a lot and second guess myself a lot. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't know, but I certainly, reasonably confident in my choices most of the time.
No, it's good. It's great. I think the around like just, sticking with your first thoughts or, I've found some of the best beers that I've designed have been in a rush because you don't overthink it, you know what you know and you get it down and you know what's going to work and you beat it together. If you overthink things, you can overcomplicate it unnecessarily. I think it's great. It's a great approach. As far as like scaling from, homebrew, I guess, the key takeaway there is make it simple, right? Keep it simple. If there's no reason for it to be there or if you can't justify it, get it out, right? You don't want 6 base malts or 2 or 3 base malts for no reason.
No, exactly. And you're just making your life more difficult, it's... Yeah, you're just making your life more difficult. No one wants to sit around the mill for hours, milling. It's not the most fun job, but if you can find it, and some beers certainly, there's pastry sour had probably 6 or 7 different malts in it, but all raw materials, adjunct heavy. But I had a reason behind why I wanted it all in there, whether it be something to sit under, something to sit through the middle, something to pull in at the end. So I do it. I definitely do it. But
but there's a time and a place, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, look, Sarah, I guess, you've been through this journey reasonably recently. Is there any advice for people diving in? We try and target this content a little bit at people who are hoping to build a brewery or in the process of. Is there anything that people could learn or stuff that, challenges or watch outs or any advice to anyone who's jumping into this space?
Feel like that's another episode too.
Sure.
Look, for me, the crux of it was having someone with incredible industry experience that I knew, regardless of what was going on, that I could pick up the phone and be like, hey, Matt, here's what's going on, and he would be able to kind of help and guide me through. And I also had that foundation to go in and learn in a place that had been up and running for many, many years. It had a great reputation. They got for me the mixture of the brewery right in terms of offering, in space, food, atmosphere. So I felt like it was a great place to kind of go and get that learning and soak it all in and try and figure out how to craft something that was going to be our own. So I would say, yes, go and learn from people who've made all the mistakes before, because you don't need to do it.
Yes.
And then I think, being realistic about timeframes, it always takes way longer and costs way more. So,
right.
The good old things. But, I think having that support, surrounding yourself with great people, finding a really good team and finding people who are super passionate about what they do, because it's supposed to be fun, right? It's a craft brewery. We didn't get into this for it to be super serious. And yes, it's hard work, definitely, but there's an element of craft beer and the environment that you create that should be fun and enjoyable and make people smile when they come in and, enjoy the process. So good people.
Did you ever hear the Aaron Heary quote of we like to have fun with, or we love to have fun with what we're doing, but we take our fun very seriously? Did you?
I've not.
Did you ever hear that one? Yeah, okay. Well, that's something that's resonated with me, and Sarah's touched on it. You've touched on it as well. Fun keeps coming up, and this is why we do what we do. But it is, I think he worded it very well. It is supposed to be fun. It often is not, but it is serious, whether it be running the business, running the brewery, or whatever role you play in it. It's we take it very seriously. It's to tick those boxes and achieve those outcomes that we set for ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, what a great note to end on. I guess the only other question I have for you, Sarah, is knowing what you know now, would you do it again?
Yes, I might tweak a few things on the way.
Sure.
But we are super proud of the space that we've created here and the brand that we're building and the excitement that we're bringing to our region, the beers that are coming out. So, yeah, absolutely. I might find some more cash. Have a bigger plan.
Everyone needs more cash.
No, all those things. But, yeah, we would definitely do it again. It's been an amazing journey. And I think for us, we're, only 18 months in. So there's a lot more to come.
Perfect. Awesome, guys. And before we wrap up, this beer's coming out mid-late May at some stage?
Early to mid, 11th and 12th it's going to can, or probably the 12th I think it'll go down the line. So that's a Thursday, so it'll probably be available from then. Yeah, so... Yeah, no pressure. I've got plenty of time. Hasn't finished ferment yet. Got time to get it.
Well, it's the 27th of April today.
Yeah,
so
nice.
You'll be right. Throw some hops in it, mate. We'll finish it up.
That'll give you a hurry along. One VDK check, sign off on it. Crash cool.
There you go. Hey. Beautiful. No, that's great. Cool. Anything else you guys want to plug?
We've got... What was the name? Are you happy to tell him the name for it?
Yeah. Moonglade.
Moonglade.
Yep.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, it will be on our online store, I think, from the Thursday. Yeah, Thursday the 12th.
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Fresh as.
Yeah,
we'll wrap it up. Well, that's it for episode... I don't even know what episode number it is of the Well Brewed podcast. As always, if you have any ideas of subjects you'd like to hear about, specific questions about Charlie's diet, etc., hit us up on Facebook or Instagram at wellbrewed, WELLBREWD, or email podcast@wellbrewed.com.au. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Talk soon.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks,
Love your work.